Hey everyone, it's your girl Maddie here, aka Beavermont, and today I get to be joined by Andrew Lee of Houkago Grind, whose latest album I'm gonna have to read it on the screen because it's long. Concertos of Kawaiiness, Stealing John Chang's Ideas, a book by Andrew Lee coming out August 16th. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me tonight. How are we doing?
Thanks, Maddie. Thanks for having me on here. I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Just because for whatever dumb reason, I decided to put out two albums at the same time, so I got a lot of work to do.
Well, I'm curious because looking back at the history of your projects and this project in particular, at the time of starting Hokugo Grind Time, about 5 years ago, you were already, involved with Rip to Shreds and a few other projects. Why did you decide, hey, I also need to do an anime themed grindcore project?
So basically, the first RTS show I played back in June of 2019. Um, uh, a guy called Harlan. He goes by Harlan. He lives in Japan. He's originally from Minnesota. He plays in like Bodies Lay Broken, and he
Yeah.
moved to Japan. And then we were actually in that same Discord that we're in together right now. And then he was like, "Hey, I'll come see your show. I'll play Fake Meat with Derek. Derek is one of my friends from Taiwan. He does Brain Corrosion, he does Mixama. I just went on tour with him last year, and we're about to go on tour again in like 4 weeks in the UK. But anyways, he was like, I'll come check it out. And then so we played together, had a lot of fun, and he was like, Hey, I'm performing this other band I've got called Extremely Brutal with
Hmm.
Dan from Archagathos on drums. Do you want to play second guitar with us when we play Ohio? I'm like, sure, why not? And once I learned that set, I was like, gore grind fucking rules, you know? And
Yeah.
so I was just like, shit, I gotta start my own. And that was
Yeah.
really it.
And then
And
just like go for it.
And then I really credit doing HGT with getting better as like an audio engineer because practice is like really the only way you get better at
Mhm.
anything. And cranking out because all the HGT releases use real drums. So cranking out all these splits and EPs and get it just learning how to better record real instruments. Um, if I didn't do HGT, I wouldn't I put out like an RTS record every 2 years.
Yeah.
I like if that's all I did, I wouldn't be capable of like doing it well by myself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad you brought up the production side of things because I was going to ask you about that. This is an entirely self-produced record. What are the biggest challenges when it comes to mixing and mastering something as chaotic as gore grind as compared to, say, death metal, this grindcore that's just full of disgust and madness, just where the trash can snare is absolutely essential.
I think anyone trying to make a gore grind record kind of needs to decide how um hi-fi, quote unquote hi-fi they
Yeah.
want the record to be. Um because you can get a totally legit sound even if you have no idea what you're doing just by and then you can say, okay, this is just like Gore Beyond Necropsy. It's supposed to sound like shit.
Yeah.
But then if you want to pull back a little and you're like, actually, I want it to sound like, the last Hit Infection album, then you need to kind of know a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so the second album that I did as HGT, I felt like it was a little bit too hi-fi.
Okay.
And so for this one, I consciously chose to pull back a little and make simpler production choices. Like instead of having, all these fancy cymbal mics and room mics, I cut it down to like I just stuck like one condenser mic like right here, and then one on the snare and kick, and that was like all I mic'd up for for drums. Um, and like drums are really what make something sound hi-fi or lo-fi. Like you
Sure.
can have super professionally recorded guitars, but if the drums sound like shit, the whole thing is going to automatically sound like a very lo-fi record, no matter what you do with the guitars.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's for the first thing that you need to solve, decide what you actually want it to sound like. And then the second thing, of course, is how to get your vocals juicy, right?
Yeah.
Because when we do regular death metal, um, you have, BDM guys who go like, "Urgh," and it's like pretty low,
Yeah.
but when you take the pitch shifter and then you drop it down like 2 octaves and it's even, and there's just like so much low end information that you have to cut out a lot of it so that you can let the kick through, you can let the bass through. And then, but if you take out too much, then it just sounds really airy. It doesn't
Hmm.
sound wet or disgusting. So that, so really those are the two biggest challenges I would say when it comes to like making gore, which is how good do you want it to sound and how can you make your vocals sound, you know, disgusting
Yeah.
and have it come through.
And so, figuring that out, doing HCT, what aspects of that, carried on to how you approach Rip to Shreds, production wise?
I think for Rip to Shreds, I'm always aiming at a more modern or cleaner sound.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't say what I do for what choices I make for HGT informs what I do for RTS,
Hmm.
beyond just getting more experience in general.
Sure.
Because when it comes to something like RTS, I'm always trying to bring in more separation and make everything clear and not like just like there are a whole bunch of times on this record for Concertos of Kawaiiness where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna let everything kind of mush together because that's the effect that I wanted.
Hmm.
But on like the new RTS single, like the chorus has like 3 layers of vocals and it's got blast beats and it's got the riffs on either side at the same time. I want the listener to be able to hear every one, and it's not. So I have to consciously think of how to separate things out and not let them get mushy.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm listening to death metal, I am like, trying to pick out individual textures and layers, and that's not what I want from grindcore. When I want grindcore, I just want a big ball just coming straight at me, and I don't
Exactly.
care
Yeah.
how it's mixed, really. I just want the chaos. Um, Something I'm interested in asking is you have done a lot of splits, and that seems to be common in grind, almost a staple. And I assume that that has root in like the hardcore tradition, because that happened in hardcore and punk a lot. But why, in your words, is the split such an essential part of grind culture, if you would?
I think very early on, right? The
Yeah.
only way that you could distribute music is you made like either a tape or made vinyl. CDs, I mean, CDs were invented like in the, I want to say mid 70s, and
Hmm.
then, but like it was super expensive at the time. So vinyl, like 7 inches, or tapes were way cheaper. And you maybe like young bands didn't have enough material to fill up both sides of a split.
Sure.
So they would literally, find another band and they would split the studio time, go in, hey, we're gonna go in there, record for 4 hours. You guys get the next 4 hours to record your part, and then we'll put them together on one 7 inch because neither of us have enough songs to actually do more than that, right?
Hmm.
And they could split the costs and actually put out music that way. So splits, in a sense, are a holdover of that before I'm not exactly sure when something like uh not DistroKid. I don't know what the other one is called. CD Baby? One of those.
Yes.
Whenever the earliest like um I guess prosumer type of distribution sites came along, but I mean I think Spotify wasn't even like mainstream until about 10 years ago.
Hmm.
So getting things out on like a CD format or split tape or whatever were still like actual viable ways of getting your music out there. So I think splits essentially are just a holdover from that time. And maybe today splits no longer have like a practical purpose, but there's still a way of I guess expressing your solidarity with a scene, or you know you want to do something fun with your friends, and then so they're collaborative in that sense. But I think they no longer have like the practicality that they used to like 20 or 30 years ago, because like then it's like because we can record at home now for like peanuts, right? And
Yeah.
before you got to spend like $500, 600 bucks to go to the studio for a day or whatever, and you want to spread that out across as many people as you could.
I remember when I was in high school, I graduated in 2012. I'm 30 now. Um, I was about the time I was learning about grindcore, and yeah, I would see the split and see a band did this part of it, but I would learn about three other bands that that band decided to do a split with. Um, and at that time, I think I was familiar with the concept of Spotify, but I think it was still kind of niche. Like I was like, I know some people who have this, but I don't. I was still very much, I had to find either the CD or maybe it was on YouTube. But yeah, it was Spotify was not like
I think
universal back then.
iTunes was kind of mainstream by like the end of the 2010s, right? Or by the end of the 2000s.
Yes, yeah,
But
iTunes was definitely around.
I'm not sure if like grind stuff was on iTunes or not. Because I remember it being like super tightly controlled by Apple at the very start before it became like kind of a more mainstream distribution platform.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, because I'm 4 years older than you. I graduated 2008, and
Mhm.
like at the start, everything was either, you know, you take your butt to the local Target or whatever to buy a CD,
Yeah.
or like you go on Kazaa and you try and find some download.
Yeah. Soulseek. Soulseek was my thing. You could type up anything and something's gonna pop up.
Right, right.
Um, well, let's let's change the conversation a little bit for the uninitiated who may hear this album and maybe not get some of the references, but maybe become intrigued in anime culture because of
Oh
the
boy.
record. What are some good places for a newcomer to start? I know that is a huge question.
I would start with I don't know if this is the best starting point,
Yeah.
but Madoka Magica is a great start. Okay, if anyone out there hasn't watched Madoka yet, this is spoilers, so just like look away for about 10 seconds. This is one of my favorite pieces of merch from Madoka because it's a USB key, and she this character actually gets her head bitten off in the third episode, and
Oh,
it's really funny. I love this USB key.
that is so morbidly funny that they've made that in the whole that into a bit like that. That's
I'm pretty sure that's like a bootleg piece of merch. I got it off.
yeah.
I don't think I got it off Temu, but it was like one of those sites. But I mean, I think for any fan, anyone who I would say enjoys kind of extreme things, there's definitely a similar sense of extremity when it comes to um, emotions or exaggerated animations, expressions in anime. because of course there are anime where it's supposed to be peaceful and kind of serene, but a lot of maybe like have you heard of an anime called Kill la Kill?
Uh-uh.
So that one was kind of a meme.
Okay.
I want to say like almost 10 years ago, but it's pretty good. But like everything is just like so over the top. You know, everyone's always like screaming at the top of their lungs. Um, like when it gets to action scenes, everyone's faces like get super distorted and exaggerated. And I think there's a lot of parallels to this with extreme metal in general, where a normal rock song, is like boom ta, and then it's just like some regular ass distorted guitar. When we get extreme
Mhm.
metal, everything's like suddenly 10 times, the drums are going da-da-da-da, or the guitars are like buzz saws making all sorts of unholy noise. So
Yeah.
I think there's kind of like a similarity there.
So I will admit that I have said this to people before. It's like if I get into anime, I haven't really yet, but I have had the personality that would get obsessed with it. I have enjoyed a lot of JRPGs, which utilize a very similar art style, but I haven't
Right.
gotten to the just watching part of anime.
Which ones have you played? Like
Um,
Persona?
like Persona, obviously the Final Fantasy series, obviously those are different. I'm very familiar with like Chrono Trigger and all those, the classics.
Persona is like basically an anime already. I
Yeah.
mean, they have anime series, I think I know they have 4 and 5. I don't know if they did 3. I'm working my way through the recent remake of 3. But I mean those strike me as very much uh video gamified animes.
Okay.
Like if you just showed me the Persona 5 anime and I didn't know it was a game beforehand, there's like no way you could tell. And then if you look at the game afterwards, you're like, hey, this isn't an adaptation of the anime. But I think especially if you're into Persona, that's a really good entry point. There's plenty of like high school battle series, like oh geez, I don't know the English names. Daka to Testo Shokanju. That's like one battle school anime. Um, gosh, High School DxD. That's another high school battle anime. I mean,
Yeah.
there's plenty to. If you're already familiar with Persona, you've already got like your foot in the water.
Okay. Um, I don't actually think this series or this game is Japanese. It just basically rips off anime. But
Doki Doki
Doki
Literature Club.
Literature Club, yep, is one of my favorite games of all time. Um, Takes place in Japan. Uh, it has the cute factor and the what the fuck is happening factor, and just the combination of both just hit me so hard when I played it. So
It's
yeah,
more wholesome than what the fuck, right?
it so it
Kind of.
it starts out very wholesome, and then it just like spoiler alert, it just flips the switch and becomes like a psychological horror, like out of nowhere. And it breaks the fourth wall. Like the game is very aware that you are playing a video game. Um, there is actually a part in the game where the character gets obsessed with you and doesn't want you to choose another character, so it will actually delete the
Interesting.
game gives you like a virtual desktop and it will like delete their game files in
Right,
your
right, right.
computer. So you have to go and like fix that. Like you have to actually know how to like play with like a file explorer and like to get past the part, you actually have to delete her. It's really wild. But yes, you knew it right when I started talking about it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think DDLC is like one of those. Um, I mean, yeah, it's definitely very anime. There's so
yeah.
many animes like or visual novels that got turned into anime that DDLC was kind of inspired by. Um, I mean, there's like if you want recommendations, I could sit here and give you recommendations all day for those
Yeah.
types of. Have you ever heard of a game called School Days?
I don't think so.
I
I'm looking it up on Steam right now.
I would say just watch the anime. School Days is about this total scumbag and funny shit happens to him. That's all I can say.
Okay. It's only $4, so I might have to I'm gonna put that on my wish list right now. Awesome. Cool. I will look into this. Um, well, I want to talk about your tour coming up. You have a few UK shows
Yes.
lined up. You want to kind of go into detail about those? Who are you playing with, and why did you decide to start playing in support of the record, in the UK?
Basically, so I have a friend from Scotland called Gerald. He plays with Gendo Ikari. He plays with Ashen Spire. I've known him for a while,
Mhm.
and I met up with him when he flew to the States at the Gridlink show in New York.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, why don't you come play Chimpy Fest?" I'm like, "Bro, I don't know the organizer of Chimpy Fest." And he's like, "I know the organizer of Chimpy Fest. I'll put in a word for you." And I was like, "Okay, can I bring my friend Derek?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And that was pretty much it. So me and Derek, we love Chimpy Fest. They put on incredible bands, and yeah, Gerald was like, "Bro, you want to play it?" I'm like, hell yeah. And then so we just put a little tour around it, and then I think Horrors Nation was also invited to Chimpy Fest, and then I think the drummer for Horse Nation is I don't know if he's like part of PLF or if he's just filling in for PLF. But now they got Dave. So it's kind of like a traveling fest, traveling
Yeah.
mini fest on all the dates because now all of them are like Horse Nation, PLF, HGT, Mixima, and then like maybe one local at each stop.
Cool. And also in the vein of HET playing live, you recently played the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest, their pre-fest show.
Right.
And I'm just curious, how was that for you? What was the experience? What was the crowd reaction?
I got to meet Dave fucking Whitty because he plays in Morbicon. But
Yeah.
for those who, I mean, you should all know this. Dave Whitty is the ex-drummer of Discordance Axis, and he is an incredible person. I was like, dude, your set was great. I wish there was more of it. And I was like, I almost cried. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I got to perform to a lot of people. I mean, there were at least a couple of people who already knew HGT,
Hmm.
the crowd. So it wasn't like I was performing only to like a whole bunch of normies who are only there for Undeath.
Did you just call Undeath a normie band?
Hey, I mean, they're getting there. Love you, Alex.
I uh I I don't know if I can personally endorse this statement, but yeah, if Alex of Undeath, if you do see this, that's what Andrew said. uh yeah, Discordance Access. You talk about a crazy influential record. The first time I heard that, I'm like, this is grindcore. This is very much grindcore, but it's the smartest grindcore album I've ever heard. It's like so cerebral in a weird sense. It feels like in one sense I'm being brutalized, but also like I'm in this dream sequence. It's it's a very unique experience.
I think what I can tell about inalienable dreamless um is kind of like it has like a Philip Glass quality to it
Yeah.
with the way that the riffs and melodies kind of repeat and are put together, especially on geez, is it Jigsaw? Shit. I'm a total poser. I gotta look this up. I think it's Jigsaw. Yes, it is Jigsaw. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Not a total poser. But the way that the dun 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 dun, and then it repeats for like a whole minute
Mhm.
while the drums break down. I think the center guitar drops out and starts to build back up and goes back into the blast beat. It's very Philip Glass. It's very anti-grindcore,
Mhm.
in a way, because you look at some of the bands that were more popular at that time, Ass Suck, um, Excruciating Terror,
Yeah.
um, as Brutal Truth. They're
Yeah.
very much coming out of like metallic riff based, you know, and then Discordant Sax is just coming from a totally left field way that's still very grindcore, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
I there's definitely some like mathy elements in there, but not in a way that like it doesn't really take into like any like post-hardcore direction, but it has like those influences that but it keeps it very much true to just the grind tradition.
Right. I mean, you can kind of hear, I think when you listen to like the melodic aspects
Yeah.
of Inalienable Dreamless, you can kind of hear um parallels to like, the early screamo bands, right? You
Hmm.
can hear the Page 99 or Orchid. Um, I've never personally talked to Rob Martin, so I don't really know what he was thinking about it. I don't know if he was thinking about it in those kinds of terms.
I I think when I was getting into Discordance Access, I think it was parallel to when I was discovering Orchid and Page 99, which is probably why the record hit so well for me when I first heard it, because I was already kind of familiar with those points of references that you're mentioning. And so I'm pretty sure that at least they had to have at least been, familiarized with that side of Screamo.
When did Chaos Is Me come out? What year was that?
Ooh, I don't know if was it like it wasn't 99, was it? No, it was 99.
Okay. 'Cause I feel like there's definitely a shift in how Discordance Axis sounded going from Ulterior to Joho to Inalienable Dreamless. Because like Ulterior is very much like a Napalm Death kind of record.
Yeah.
Um, and then Joho is where it starts to get a little bit weirder. So maybe Orchid would have been more like a parallel evolution rather
Yeah.
than
And talking about like, roots of Screamo, that's a bit out of my area of expertise. I'm only kind of like a passive enjoyer of it. Like I'm not a total nerd like I am for metal, but where Orchid was getting that sound, I don't know, but I'm sure it was kind of a similar source that like Discordance Axis was pulling from then.
right, right.
Yeah.
I mean that's kind of what makes sense to me.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to ask about a lot of the sample work on the record because it's all very funny, I might add, but I'm just wondering, typically, how do you go about hunting these little audio bits? Where do you pick them? Where are you finding these?
Um, so usually I have an idea what I don't want to use,
Okay.
because there's series like called AMV Hell, um, and there's like a whole series of AMV Hells.
Mm.
Well, actually, I think because for whatever reason, my audience for HGT is way younger than RTS. 'Cause I
Hmm.
guess like it's the TikTok punk gore kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they've actually never seen AMV held before because those were distributed before YouTube even existed. Those
Yeah.
were distributed like 98, 99, up to like 2005 or something. Um, but I mean, there are a lot of like these older animes when I'm like, I can't use those. People have been looking at those. People have been making memes of those for like over 20 years.
Yeah.
And so really it's more like newer series. Um, I think if I look at in general, there's um it's called Cute Girls Doing Cute Things. That's like kind of an entire subgenre of anime.
Yeah.
And usually there's always these kinds of collections of noises that I can pull from. And then I just kind of have to like scrub through each episode. I'm like, okay, here's a good one. And then I clip it out.
Is there any issues with like copyrights? Have you ever gotten any sort of slap on the wrist for any sample you've used?
If Gulch can get away with ripping off Sanrio, and Gulch is like a billion times bigger than me, there's no way anyone's gonna care whatever I do.
That is I think it's a fair point. Also, I gotta praise the Diet Coke. I think Diet Coke is the nectar of the gods. It is my favorite beverage. Um, it has all of the caramely things about it that a regular Coke has, but none of the like extra over sweetness. It's just, and it's not like a LaCroix where it's trying to be like this fancy beverage. It's just a Diet Coke, and it's so refreshing.
I do have one small complaint about it, which is I feel like it goes flat faster than regular Coke.
Okay, that is fair.
I wish it had more carbonation, but I mean, it's better that I'm drinking Diet Coke than, an extra 3,000 calories a day and
Yeah.
whatever.
It's dangerous for me though because if I do buy a 12 pack, I just I don't know how to ration it. I just drink it. So I just like either I just don't buy it or I buy it and thinking that's the economic way and then I just drink it all. It's better just to like buy one a day where I walk past the grocery store, honestly.
So I just have like a pallet delivered on a regular schedule. I don't need to worry about rationing it anymore.
What, like you get like
That's
an
what 4
Amazon
bucks gets you.
subscription?
That's
Oh
what four
yeah.
bucks gets you.
That is playing it right. That is playing it right. I had the band Severus
Mhm.
come on the show a few months ago, and they were also down in Diet Cokes, and we had the same exact conversation. Just something about Diet Coke that if you like Diet Coke, you like Diet Coke. It's just like there's almost a culture around it. I am a member of the Diet Coke subreddit. I am a proud member of it.
I didn't know there was a subreddit. I have to join it. I mean, like, uh, if I'm comparing it with Coke, like, if I'm just thinking about it in terms of not of wanting to consume fewer calories,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna choose Coke Zero, which does taste more like Coke, right? But Diet Coke has its own taste that's distinct from regular Coke. I mean,
Oh
that I
yeah.
think they tried to change the formula like in the 90s for Diet Coke to taste more like real Coke, and people were upset about it. And that's why they have Diet Coke and Coke Zero. And Coke Zero is for people who want it to taste more like real Coke. But Coke Zero has a really weird aftertaste.
Yeah,
I can't take it.
I do just prefer Diet Coke. And but Diet Coke is the only diet soda that doesn't taste like a really acidic version of the other thing. Like Diet Mountain Dew, horrible. You
I
can't
think
drink
it's
that.
because Diet Coke has its own identity. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's got Coke written on it, but it tastes like its own thing.
Hmm. That's why like if you go to a bar, they don't stock diet every other soda, but they always have Diet Coke. You can always have Diet Coke. They know people want it. Um I want to talk about some other projects here in. You are the co-owner of Nameless Grave Records. And I've talked to bands off of Nameless Graves. I've reviewed records off of that label. I'm curious in your own words, what is Nameless Graves' focus? What are the kind of bands that you are trying to put out, and why did you get this label started?
Um, I would say my involvement is mostly limited to rubber stamping whatever Brandon wants to put out.
Okay.
But if he tries to go too YOLO, I'll tell him that it's a dumb idea. Um, because I mean, we Brandon initially started it as a way to put out his own records that other people didn't want to release, right? And then so
Okay.
it started off
Okay.
with a lot of, like death metal or black metal. And then because Brandon loves traditional heavy metal, we started doing that too. And he wants to put out a lot of cult shit. And I always look at him like, bro, this only five people would listen to this shit. But I told him, no, you can't put that out. But really, I think our focus on the signing on our because like we also run a distro, and then our I think our aims for the distro are a little bit different from what we do with as a record label. Like our distro side, we just want to bring in rare imports from Europe. We have a really good relationship with all our partners over there, so we get records that other distributors don't get until like much later. So that's kind of like our focus as a distributor. But as a label, I think we are just trying to put out the best heavy metal and death metal that we can.
Yeah.
Um, and my role mostly is to add value and be like, hey, you might think you want to sign with 20 bucks spin, but if you sign with us, I'll mix your record for free. If you guys are really fucking good, I'll fly out and record your record for free. And that's what, we can offer compared to like traditionally bigger labels.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, 20 bucks spin, you have that like stamp of approval. People that see 20 bucks spin, they're gonna go listen to because it's a 20 bucks spin record. But and I don't know how true this is. I don't know for sure. And I have nothing but respect for 20 bucks spin, but I doubt that 20 bucks spin with all the promotion they have to do and all the marketing can give the amount of individual attention to each band that some smaller labels can.
Yes, I think 20 buck is either a 1 or 2 man operation.
Yeah.
I think they might like hire people for like packing orders. I'm not sure if Dave still does it himself. Um, but yeah, when you have like that kind of schedule, it's definitely tough. Um, I think all labels past a certain size have to hire outside PR. We do it too. Just because if we try to do all this stuff ourselves, we would go insane.
Yeah. Uh, you use earsplit, right, for your outside PR?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes, because I do get your stuff in my inbox. Yeah, I totally understand how that whole cycle works. Um, I also thought it was funny when you mentioned that your partner and Nameless Graves wants to put out this cult stuff that only five people will listen to, and the first thing that came to my mind is, as someone who also really enjoys black metal, there's black people whose like favorite subgenre of metal is black metal. There is this weird thrill in just having this exclusive love for just the most unlistenable shit. It's like a badge of honor that I think is just unique to black metal culture.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, all I really know about black metal is that Sunbather is pretty cool, and that's like kind of where my knowledge of black metal ends.
I don't like Sunbather. I um that's all I have to say about Sunbather. I have people that are in my same sphere of influence who love that record. It's just not for me. But I understand that black metal's not for everybody, and I'm totally okay with that. Ah, I say I have one more question for you. Um, and I'm just really quoting you, but I'm very curious why dubs over subs?
We have to read the lyrics for that. Hold
They're on Metal Archives. I did pull it up.
on. Does this show up?
It doesn't.
Is it like out of focus or
It's out of focus, yeah.
damn it? Well, I'll just read it to you here.
Okay.
Lyrics as for dubs. I'm a poopy head, subs are awesome. I'm a poopy head, subs are awesome. I'm a poopy head, subs are awesome. Solo, putting American VAs out of work by Tom. Tom is my friend.
Okay.
From he does Mass Extinction. He was an organ dealer and sentient horror for a little bit.
Yeah.
And oi, subs rule. That's what it says in here.
So you are definitely in the subs camp.
Yes.
Yeah. I I know the sample in the first track says something around in the track says something about it's like it says something about how dub actors are almost as good as the original Japanese performance, and you probably put that in very sarcastically.
Oh yeah, that's my friend Billy Smear.
Yeah.
Because so Billy and Joseph Schaefer from Colony Drop in Northwest Terror. So I had them both sing on that track. So they're doing the clean parts,
Yeah.
the like kind of shouty hardcore bits, and then I'm doing the gurgles, of course. Because I wanted this one to have more like a kind of like an SOB kind of like a party hardcore, fastcore kind of feel. And then it's like, so it really needed that type of punky shout, and I just don't know how to do that. So
Yeah.
I had my friends do that for me.
I did notice that there were a very different vocal take on there, and I was wondering, is that you or is that someone else? So it
No,
was a
no,
guest
no.
spot.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so sorry for almost presenting your opinion the opposite of what it is. We are a pro we at Beaver Mosh are a pro subs media outlet, and we endorse the your subs devotion.
I understand why people like dubs, and there are dubs that are pretty well done, but
Mm,
like it's just not the same. Like I cringe when I hear like like American children cartoons. I really don't like the voices. Like and it's like a type of voice that they use for it. But like
mm,
I didn't grow up speaking Japanese. I have no idea what normal spoken Japanese is supposed to sound like. So when I hear subs, when I hear the Japanese dub, I'm like, sounds perfectly fine to me. This is just what anime is supposed to sound like.
mhm.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure, and I can read fast. Maybe if reading is like huge barrier for some people, then yeah, I get why people would prefer dubs, but not for me.
I I think I've seen Akira twice, and I think I've watched it once with tubs and once with subs, and I definitely think it just feels more real when you watch the sub version, in my opinion.
And
Feels more
I think
natural.
like Princess Mononoke
Yeah.
is supposed to have a really good dub, and they actually re-released it in Japan with the English dub with Japanese subs of of that aren't the original script but are translations of the English dub. So it's pretty good. But I mean, it's also like it's set in 1300s Japan. Like everyone is speaking archaic Japanese, and
Yeah.
it's bizarre to me when they start talking in English.
An interesting. I just the other day was watching an interview, learned that the some of the later Final Fantasy remakes, like the Final Fantasy VII remake, those are dubbed. I didn't realize that they were like dubbed actors and they were dubbing over video animation, video, and just trying to fit the English translation rhythmically in a way that matched the mouths of the characters. And I actually thought, oh,
They didn't
that's not
reanimate them.
easy. No, or maybe they did. I feel like
I'm pretty sure. I feel like uh for video games, they always reanimate at least the lips because those are going to be lip synced to the lip synced uh programmatically to the
yeah,
audio. But I think maybe like the timing of the scenes
yeah.
don't get changed. So like they have like 3 seconds on this mark and then it's gonna cut and they don't change that for different languages. So like the mouth flaps are always gonna be synced to the script, no matter the language, but they adjust the script to fit within like the scene beats that they don't change, I guess.
Okay, so maybe I misunderstood the actress because I think that makes sense because the actress did make mention of like, yeah, I have these lines, I'm talking about the English dubbed actress, and she's
Mhm.
like, I have to get it in like a very specific time frame. So she might be talking about like, yeah, the scene is this long, and I have to say the English translation within this frame of seconds.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is it when you're watching anime like with dubs, is it similar? Do they reanimate the lips at
No, no,
all?
no, no. So
Yeah,
I mean, so like facial animation has like this whole pipeline.
yeah,
Um, I'm not sure if 7 Remake uses Unreal or they're like using their Crystal engine or whatever. I think it's Unreal. But like they're gonna have these animation pipelines for, you just dump your audio in there and it will automatically uh come up with the animation for the mouths, and then maybe you might go and manually fix some things, but it's
yeah,
mostly automatic. Whereas for animation,
yeah,
everything's hand drawn. It's like a crazy amount of work to redraw. Well, so most animation, just right to save
yeah.
time, save money, they probably could reanimate because if it's only mouth flaps, I think specifically for Akira, they actually recorded all the dialogue first, and then they animated the characters to match the recorded dialogue
Okay.
for the original Japanese. But I think going back to redo that for other languages would be like a crazy amount of work because it's all manual.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. That was kind of my assumption. Um, well, Andrew, I have no other questions for you, but I did definitely want to thank you for coming on the show. And before I let you go, I want to leave the floor to you. Tell people where they could find the record. Tell people what to look out for. Any other plugs you might have. There it is.
So next Friday, oh, I don't know when this is coming out, but next Friday, 8/16, got the new record. You can buy it from me. You can buy it from Obliteration Records in Japan. Naru trades with every major grind distributor. So wherever you are, just go to your local grind distributor and you can grab the CD there. And I will be in the UK in a couple of weeks, and I hope to see all of you there.
Cool. As always, thank you so much to my patrons. You watching right there. Keep it metal. My name is Maddie. I'm out of here.